Hello viewers, welcome to another edition of Uncovering India's discussion program. And as we all know, for last 3 months plus, the COVID has taken a huge toll on all of us, physically, mentally, in all way, financially, way you look at it, everything has been squashed by this COVID. And biggest impact that we had is on the mental health aspect, with people stressed out and not knowing how to deal with this scenario, which suddenly brought the entire life to a grinding halt. It was a very wonderful example of public-private partnership, where we had government of Goa on one side and other side some prominent mental health organizations like the Sangat, Kuj and Andarman all came together on one platform to start a COVID helpline, which was called as COVID Hour, which has been dealing with the distressed people and providing them with help and counseling. They will talk to us about how Andarman has been getting or being part of this COVID helpline, how it has been, how the journey has been, what kind of cases has come in, and how we are dealing with it. And when we are talking about new normal, what is going to be that new normal, and how the experts and the society have to come together to deal with this scenario. So we have amongst us Dr. Ravindra Agarwal, psychiatrist and director of Andarman. Then we have Preetha Matthews, psychotherapist, and we have Tanushri Sharma, psychologist with Andarman. Starting with you, sir, I welcome you all to this session of discussion with Uncovering India. So, 2 months plus, COVID was set up. How has been the situation till now? What has been the journey till now?
So, I have to say it's a very wonderful journey. It's been nearly 3 months actually, and only very recently. So, this COVID was set up under the guidance of Psychiatric Society of Goa. And my organization, Antarman, Sangat, Kuj, and we came together, and plus lots of other mental health professionals. So it was very heartening that when we decided to launch it, not only was it accepted by the users, that is the public, a lot of mental health professionals came together and volunteered for it. So we had like nearly 100 plus volunteers who provided services completely free of charge. Now, what has happened with COVID is, I'm just checking the stats, around 700 sessions we have done in last 3 months or so. And I think nearly 55% of the people who have used the service are females, and an average age is 28 years. So that means it's been a big hit among the youngsters. The huge advantage of COVID has been because of the lockdown, there has been a decreased access to mental health services. We are ready to help, but the patients cannot come to us. It's because of the restrictions. So through an online medium, the patients have been able to use our services. So it's been a really good response.
So what kind of typical problems that are spoken about and that you are encountering from while talking to the callers?
So what has happened is, in the COVID app, the access has been for 2 different types. So we broadly divided the service users into people of general public, anyone from anywhere. In fact, we got a lot of calls from outside Goa as well, although we had initially conceived it to be a Goa specific. But the other group of people have been those who have been in quarantine, because those who are in quarantine, they had a lot more distress because they were paranoid, they were worried what is going to happen, they were worried about their safety, sometimes not even getting access to simple services. So that has resulted in a stress. Most of though we have not maintained patient-specific data on what exactly has been complained, you have been both volunteers on the COVID app. I have also seen the clients. So most of the clients which we have come across have been mostly about anxiety. Anxiety about their safety, anxiety about their future, whether they are going to be able to get it or not, and at the fact that when somebody is put under restrictions and not able to move out, and an external force is telling you can't move out, then it is very uncomfortable. So those are the reasons related to why we got a lot of sick.
Ma'am, after talking to you, we were never prepared for such a situation. Although you all have been professionals, do you really think you were also prepared for a situation like this?
No. I'm after all human also. No, I wasn't prepared for this situation.
So how did you cope with the situation, and what kind of thing did you observe when you were on the helpline? There would have been people who were extremely anxious, some must be losing their temper, somebody must be crying their heart out. So how were you dealing with this emotion, the variety of emotions that were coming up? And what was playing in your mind when you were dealing with this kind of callers?
See, one of the key ingredients to therapy is being empathetic, and that's what you would like to, give across to the client here on a platform like Covida or just our clients. So you have to, key here is acceptance. So that is what we tell them this is. We have to accept what is. It's a pandemic going on. The whole world is affected. So we have to accept that fact and regulate our lives in such a way that we get a varied, there is emotional regulation where I can see the healthy, fit body, fit mind. So we have to, space out a day in such a way that we do things as normal as possible, what we are used to, what used to be normal for us. But this is the new normal right now, and we have to accept it and move on.
Come to you, Tanushree ma'am, you were also a psychologist and you were also part of this entire activity. Anything unusual, anything amiss, something that was unexpected for you that you encountered from what was coming out of this callers, when you were reading people's mind, as a psychologist you have to read your caller's mind, what they're trying to do, and then immediately on your tip of your fingertips you have to come out with a solution also. So what was passing through your mind when you were dealing with these callers?
Okay, so to begin with, we don't read minds and we don't give solutions at the same time. So we just hear them out. Basically, just listening to them was a great deal because like many of us were just stuck at home alone. So they were all like nobody to talk to. So just being there for somebody just to listen, a listening ear was a great deal. Also, like Preetha mentioned, that acceptance, like helping them to accept the scenario, it's fine, it's okay, we are all in it together. That feeling of togetherness that we are also there, made them feel to a great level better. Didn't give them solutions as such, but they give them a hope of being there for each other also. There were many patients, many clients who were ready to volunteer for it as well. Now that you have helped me, I would love to help others as well. So many of the callers who had called us, they were like, can I pass on this to somebody else? Can you tell me how do I pass it on? Can I help somebody else? So it was a great help, not just to them, it was a great help to others as well. So that's what I analyzed or examined, you can say, through this experience of COVID.
So personally speaking, you are trained in mental health, but this kind of situation where you're bombarded with calls and bombarded with the problems and suddenly it is unexpected to be getting into this scenario. So how were you tackling with your own mental aspect as well, keeping your sanity in mind and dealing with the bombardment of calls that are coming your way or distressed callers? So as an individual also, as a human being also, how you were tackling this? How did your training come into help in this kind of situation?
Yeah, here we got very good chance to practice what we preach, so to say. Alright, so what I can speak for myself over here is exercise, healthy food, books, music, yes, and not too much screen time, especially to do with COVID, only that much, a little time, and before sleep, no screen, especially something distressing. You're already in a distressing situation, why, increase it. So just this, and connect with people, reach out to people, cook. Everybody's become like gourmet cooks during this lockdown, it's just hobbies, interests, spending time with people. And then
how you cooked up?
So basically I was into some kind of social work during that time. that didn't really help me to cope up. But yeah, I was there for people who are in need at that moment. Not just this voluntary service, I was into other voluntary services as well. I was connecting to people, like Preetha said. I was reaching out to whoever I could. Maybe just a message that we could drop to our loved ones or to whoever is in touch with us. Also, just connecting with people who are around you, like speaking to your family members, just talking about COVID. Maybe what I did is I don't know, with whatever knowledge I had, I gave that awareness to my father, my family members, because again, they were also panicky. They were also in some kind of anxiety, that fear. So maybe giving them knowledge or giving knowledge to whatever awareness that I could give from my side, I tried to do that. So like you said, that's what kept me sane.
Dr. Agarwal, a very important question that I have for you is that we all know that Goa has a very high suicide rate. Okay, the National Crime Records Bureau has been giving us data stating that Goa is among the highest in terms of the smaller states as far as suicide is concerned, which is a very serious thing when you have such a small population. On top of that, when we have a COVID type of scenario, which is we have just worsened the already existing labyrinth that was there. So do you think it has become a double whammy as far as the mental health aspect is concerned? And what are the challenges as a mental health expert you expect to encounter?
So yes, certainly this has been a double whammy. Though I'm not sure, the data has not come in as to whether the COVID situation and the lockdown restrictions are themselves causing any more suicides. But Goa, when you have said about the data which you are talking about, is the data which has always been there, as in the sense the data which has been there even before the COVID situation came in. So those suicides, and if you actually look at the data about Goa, there are a lot of young people in Goa and their life, and we always have a higher spurt of suicide rates during and after the exam results. Now all of these suicides, are preventable. So these are not suicides which have happened because of the financial element, like how we have in the Vidarbha and Maharashtra, because these are suicides which are not because somebody is completely hopeless or because of a poverty related. These are because young people are very impulsive and they don't have a good background in solutions and in problem solving skills, or we can say the word resilience. So that is something which we are failing as a system. We are not giving it to our youngsters. It needs to be made part of the school college curriculum, so that our youngsters, when they face adversity like a failure in exam or not being able to do that, or failure in a relationship, then immediately the first option should not be I should end my life. They should be trained on how to do it. So this, if we are able to do that, this will help our people even during the COVID times. Now, one other thing which also happens, and we always see a lot of increased suicide, is what we call copycat suicide. And recently we have seen the celebrity suicide. And again, when I was looking at the media, now this is up to you. As a media, you need to report this very sensibly. Whenever the suicide is reported, there should always be a kind of the
sensitivity involved, and the mode of death should never
be sensationalized.
Absolutely.
So that was
Yes.
with those on the trigger point, they may follow suit.
True. And what happens is, if I may just continue, is the anchors, the media reporters, you are obviously doing this is because you are effective in communication. You guys are very good in actually reaching the message across. So if every suicide report is then ended by saying that this was a wasteful loss of saying, this could have been prevented. If you have something similar, please go and seek help. That effective communication will really help.
So I suppose Antarman is taking a lot of initiatives in Goa and community as far as creating awareness and involving community in suicide prevention. Like the other day I heard about your youth club or something like that you are starting. So can you just take us through the initiatives that you are taking?
So this is something which we are thinking of putting in close, and simply because we came to the realization that a lot of youth related plans are made by clinicians like us who are no longer clued on with the youngsters. So it's usually made by people sitting in offices. So most of the mental health promotion strategies for young people are not made by young people. You know? So we don't know what they exactly need. So what we have been in process of planning is actually forming a group, and maybe through your medium I'll invite people to come and join me, is forming a group in which they decide what they need, by what medium, what is the kind of solution from strategies they need, and what are the problems. And this is very relevant not only in preventing suicide, but Goa is increasingly having an illicit drug use among youngsters. There is an explosion of drug use among young people, college going youth, and that needs to be addressed. If we don't do this, then problem will go completely out of control. Then we are increasingly seeing road rages, youngsters having behavioral problems, obviously mobile addiction, all those problems. But this can be solved only when they get involved, and that is what Bob was talking about, by forming stakeholders, maybe representatives of student unions, maybe the cultural groups. You know, Goa has a very rich, it's unique, like every major college has their own cultural festival. So I want to tap into that, use those mediums to actually reach out to them and get them to be involved in what they need. So that is what I was talking about.
Any other initiative that Andaman has taken or is planning to take?
So we support a self-help group. So I'm aware of two self-help groups exist in Goa. One is led by led in the sense patronized and supported by Dr. Hegde from Margao. It's called Kalji. It's a group of people who are either family members or service users themselves. We at Antarman have a bipolar support group. So these are patients who have had bipolar illness themselves, and now they are actually come together. They support each other. We just guide them. Dhanushri actually moderates that group. So that is what we are doing. Another aspect which I would like to say is that two of our members, that is myself and my colleague Nitasha Bora, we have been nominated by Government of Goa in State Mental Health Authority. So the State Mental Authority is a body formed under the new Mental Health Act of India 2017, which is actually a very nice act. On paper, it has been inspired by the best of the acts in the world, and it's been really appreciated by people internationally. It gives a lot of rights to service users, as in the sense there are in the act specified how you can be admitted, when you should be discharged. One cannot be locked up in the hospital for a long time. If you are in hospital, you have access to email, you have access to phone call. In the hospital, patients can no longer be forced to wear hospital uniform. They can get access to their notes. And these are the notes, these are the kind of rights which this act has given, which people were denied before. There are concepts about advanced directives. Now what an advanced directive, if I say just 1 minute, is like mental illness is the only illness affecting us humans in which you lose your decision-making power. It's like if I was to get appendicitis, my surgeon will ask me whether you want to get operated or you want antibiotics. But if I become mentally ill, then I'm not able to tell my doctor what I want. So for that they have got a concept called advanced directives, where I will write in advance what I would like to be done with or treated with if I become mentally ill. That's a feature, a very beautiful feature of this new act. So we, couple of us, have been members of State Mental Authority, and this State Mental Authority also has a huge representation, huge in a significant number of patients themselves, service users, family members, as well as NGOs are represented. So they are going to sit down with the IS officers and actually tell them what they want, how their care needs to be made in the state. So I think that also is a beautiful initiative, and I would like people to come forward and ask for their rights.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Dhanushri. Thank you, Preeta.
Thank you.
As we all heard right now that mental health is the biggest challenge today, and going ahead it is going to be a bigger challenge, and we have experts where you can come and take your help. Please remember that it is not a shame, it is not an issue to seek help. It is better to seek help than do something which is drastic. Please come, seek help, and we are all there for you for anything that you need for a better tomorrow. Signing off for Uncovering India, this is Shashwat Gupta Ray with my colleague Anusha Ghosh. Thank you.
Thank you.